Welcome everybody to our event with GEG Colorado. I am Amber Trout, the GEG Colorado leader, and I am joined today with the amazing Becky Shorey. Becky Shorey has actually done one of our launch events, and she is so amazing. And I've seen her at EdTech team events, and she has the most amazing things that she is able to share. And I can't wait for her to give you all the great tips and tricks that she has for you today. So Becky, want to introduce yourself a little more?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. So I live in Lakewood, Colorado, and I see some locals on here. So welcome, and people from far and wide. That's great. So yeah, I am a Google certified trainer, Google certified innovator. This time 3 years ago, I was in Sydney, Australia at our innovator cohort, which that was really fun. All right. So anyway, today we're going to go ahead and learn a couple of different ways how to differentiate like a rock star, right? Because we all hear in our schools, like, you need to differentiate, and we all want to, but how do you do that? And how do you do that quickly and easily, right? Without stressing you out so much. So we're going to go through a bunch of different things. So my goal for you guys today is to take one or two little tidbits that you can and start implementing them in your classroom. My request is that as you guys go through this, put into the chat any sort of questions that you have or any sort of aha moments like, what, that was great. We love seeing those, how you're going to use something in your classroom. That would be really fantastic. All right. So that's our goal for today. I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera over a little. Okay. So the first thing when you're differentiating, I don't know about you guys, but maintaining your Google Classroom or your Schoology or however you're doing your grade book. When I make a differentiated assignment, I then go to grade the assignment and I forget, like, what was I thinking at that time, like a day ago these days, right? And so we're going to just kind of show you how to keep track of that sort of stuff. So I always number all of my assignments, and I start with 001 because I use Google Classroom and Google Drive, and I start with a 001 because that way Google will actually sort things properly. If I started with 1 and then 10, sometimes it kind of alphabetizes it weird. So that just really helps me keep track of things. And so when I'm differentiating, I will then say, okay, well, if these students are all getting assignment 34, then these students are going to get assignment 34.1. So that way I can remember when I go in the grade book that they count for that same thing, okay? So that's just a really nice little trick to keep track of things. We also, when I was working up the hill at the school, we had, like, the day school was starting, 18 refugee students that enrolled in our school, and they were from a variety of countries in Africa, and they spoke a variety of languages. Some of the girls spoke 5 languages. English was their worst, right? And we just weren't used to having students that spoke so little English. And I found that a lot of teachers were getting, you know, overwhelmed and weren't quite sure like where to go. And the students were just sitting in class and weren't really doing much because they were so overwhelmed. They just didn't have that language skill. And I don't know if you guys have ever spent any time in a foreign country. I spent summer before my senior year in Spain, and by noon every day, my brain was like, I'm done translating everything. I'm so tired, right? So what I did is I worked with the ESL teacher and the students and the teachers, and we came up with a template. So we have a Google Docs template and a Google Slides template because we wanted a quick and easy way that a teacher could go and say, here's your learning objective. I need you to go kind of figure it out and attach it and post it to Classroom for me. So the teacher wasn't spending a lot of time recreating the wheel and a whole new assignment, but the student could come in each day, sit down and get to work and not be overwhelmed. So we created a Docs template and a Slides template. I'm going to go ahead and open those for you. so that you can see. Can't preview. That's awesome. All right, that's all right. We'll go over here and open it because it's actually over here that I have it. Just 1 second. Okay, that didn't work at all. ENTIA. Don't you love technology things? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
The joys of technology. The joys.
The joys. I know, but right, you just got to model it with your students and it's fine. It all works out in the wash. Okay, this template is going to be the death of me. Okay, so I've got this Google Docs template. So basically, a teacher could come in, use this template, put in for the student, here's your learning target. And right in US government, these students don't even have the basis of our government. How are we going to be able to make all these assumptions that they know all this about it? So maybe it's just like the learning target is to understand the 3 different branches of government. And so a teacher could come in here and type in that learning target, and then they come over to Google Classroom. Right, and they are going to just come over to classwork, create an assignment, and I would call it 034.1, right? And then I would come over to all students. And if I had students enrolled in this class, I would deselect all students and I would just select that one student that needed it, okay? So this one is good. This template is good for a student that has a little bit more language skills, and they can go ahead and work on writing out the English and then also figuring out the vocabulary, right? I love using tables because students can drag images into tables. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but I can do a search. So let's say, I'm going to do a search for oscillation. Let's say that's one of our vocab words. I can go ahead and grab this image, bring it up to this doc, and drop it down into the table, and it resizes it. And I love that. Such a great trick. So a student could go ahead and drop in lots of vocab words. So the other option then is this slides template. And why did I make one in slides? Because slides doesn't care where you put images or text. You can move things all around. And this is a better template for students that just really don't have those language skills and want to do things visually, because they can bring in shapes, they can bring in images, they can do diagrams showing flow and stuff like that. So they can do any sort of, workflow. It took a little bit of training with the students in the ELL class, and then, working with the teachers to be able to put this out. But super simple. I've differentiated as a teacher for a student in short order. So again, you could do that in probably 5 minutes. All right, moving on. Drag and drop is so cool. It's my favorite. There's already closed captioning available in slides. I don't know if you guys knew that or not as an option. Oh, look, there's a car wash. But what you can do as a teacher is when you're in present mode, I can actually go down to the bottom of my screen and click on closed captioning. And so what's going to happen is you'll see at the bottom of my screen, it's capturing everything in real time that I'm saying. I'm going to turn it off because it's mesmerizing, right? But as we go to remote learning, you could always record yourself. I know those of you guys in Jeffco are getting Screencastify Premium Edition. So you could always record yourself with your slides up, turn your closed captioning on for your students, hit Screencastify record, and then you can embed that into your Google Classroom or your Schoology class or anything like that, so that students that aren't able to get there at the time that you're presenting with everybody else also has that ability to see exactly what you said and not just the slides. So it's pretty great stuff. Oh, thanks, Irene. Irene thinks it's amazing too. All right, also in Google Docs, you can have students speak into Google Docs, which is amazing. So one time we had this kid came in, he fell off the trampoline and he broke both his arms and he was in a cast, like frozen like this. I'm like, dude, how do you even go to the bathroom? He's like, don't even ask. Like, it's just not. I'm like, okay, but how do you type even? And so Google Docs is great for that. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a Google Doc. I find a lot of times we have those students that do you ever have this, like you grade their assessment, their essay, whatever, and you're like, they don't show any comprehension whatsoever. But when you talk to them, they're just like, explain it flawlessly. And you're like, well, that's not at all what you wrote. Well, a lot of times students have this kind of disconnect, right? And it's like their brain works a million miles an hour, their typing skills, or, you know, they're just not able to type it well when they do it. So if you go to, let's see, I always forget where it's at. I just have to look. Format, insert, tools and voice typing. I used to forget, like feel bad that I'd forget under what tab things were, and I just don't care anymore. All right, so I've got my cursor in here. I click to speak, and now everything that I say is going to go ahead and be translated onto the page. Okay, so that can be really helpful for your students. You just have to teach them that that's a thing. And I know I hear you guys already, well, they need typing skills. Yes, they do. But am I going to, do they really? I don't know. Because the wave of the future might be speaking into your phone, a microphone, or whatever. Like, so we grew up needing typing skills. Becky, I don't know if they're going to need it. Yeah.
I was going to say that I know that a lot of people say, you know, with older kids, you know, they might want them to type, but with younger kids, this is perfect for your K-2 learners who can't type in there. They just talk into it. It's an amazing feature for young kids.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's there. It's really helpful. You'll also notice, let me go back a slide. When you guys get the link to this presentation, you can actually, I've got little buttons, if you will, like buttons in here. And so I hide those, and this is great for a little trick for remote learning, right? If you have slides with directions, you can put little buttons with additional help in there. So it doesn't clutter your screen, but anybody who needs it has access to it. So the additional help can link out to a document, or it can link out to a screencast that shows the different steps that students are doing. And again, it helps differentiate for different types of learners with that, giving them that directions that they need. Oh, Jane's here. Hi, Jane. We're in school together. All right, so special ed students, let's talk about some features that we can do with them. So all teachers have the ability to get text helps read write premium for free. Whether or not your school district has paid for it for all the students, it doesn't matter. All teachers are free. So on this slide, I have the ability, a button here, again, a button, so that you can go ahead and sign up. It is not instantaneous. It takes about 24 hours. When you're filling out this form and it asks you just want read, write, or equatio, equatio is the math equations, it's free. Why not just say yes as well? It's also going to ask you for who's your district administrator. It's just really if you have any issues, who are they going to reach out to? You can put yourself down there, but it does take about 24 hours to show up. So I'm going to teach you as a teacher how you can use the free version, but still differentiate for your students. Okay. So let's go to the next slide and I'll kind of show you how it works. So here I've got the extension available in the Chrome web store for you. So you can always click on that if you want. I'll show you, let's see. what are we going to do first? We're going to do vocabulary. So I'm going to go to this version of me for a second, because this version of me actually has it installed. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually give students a vocabulary list, because I taught science for years, right? But science, or man, when my student was in A-Push, that was so much vocab, right? But lots of classes have very particular vocabulary. And I've heard from parents and special ed providers, like if we had a list of those vocabulary words ahead of time, we could really work with our students and they wouldn't be so lost when you're throwing around these new vocabulary words. All right, cool. Let's make them a vocabulary list in under 5 minutes, because everything is under 5 minutes, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm on just a regular web page. I click on the read write extension, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to highlight a couple of words that I think the students might struggle with. So geography, cyclones, anticyclones, oscillation, right? I'm just picking a couple words. Now, there's this button up here, this vocabulary button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Google is automatically making me a Google Doc for vocabulary. It is labeled that vocabulary list untitled. So I'm going to actually call this, what was patterns in Arctic weather. So I'm going to rename it. Okay. I got partway through patterns in Arctic. You ever feel like you're on the struggle bus? On the struggle bus. Okay, so I've created a vocab list. It's got the word and the meaning, the symbol, and the notes. Some of the words don't have images in there, but I already showed you the trick for bringing in vocabulary, right? So I can type in anticyclone, because that did not have an image. I'm going to go ahead and drag it up, and I'm going to drop it in. You'll also notice that some words have multiple meanings. So I've created this vocab list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my Google Classroom. I'm going to number the assignment. I'm going to add a document, maybe from my Google Drive. It is the most recent thing that I just made. I'm going to insert that, and I'm going to say, make a copy for each student. And you know what? I could always differentiate if I wanted and just give this to the kids that have an IEP, or why not just give it to everybody, because they might really like it. Or, you know, I could make it as a straight up assignment for everybody and say, here's the vocabulary. I need you to take notes for understanding as you're reading this. And I also need you to delete off these definitions over here that don't apply to this use of the word, because a lot of times words have different meanings, okay? So again, I'm just using the teacher-free version and I'm putting it out to all my students. It took me only a couple minutes to do that. You're sitting here with your mouth wide open in amazement. Yay, and I'm doing my job. Okay, next up, and I haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet, so just wait. I can also take text and I can simplify it, okay? So I'm going to go over to this article and I'm going to hit this button right here, and I'm going to simplify the page. It has taken off all of the stuff. Now it's also taken off some of the images that I want. So I might want to pull those images back over, but it's simplified all that distracting stuff over on the sides, right? I can also change it from black on white to white on black, yellow on blue. I find that one really hard to read, but black on white, white on black. Okay, might be easier for some people to see. And I can also change the font to open dyslexic. So if I have students that are dyslexic, it weights the bottom of the word a little bit better. I can change the font size for if I have students that are vision impaired. So there's lots of different options that I have in here. And I can also hit the negative button again, and it will make it even more simplistic, right? So I can keep hitting this, and now a student doesn't have as much to read, but they still have the main ideas. Now this is done with artificial intelligence, so you might want to double check it and make sure. But now I can take this and give that out to the student that does take longer to read, or the ESL student that I know it's going to take them forever to read it. So it can be quite helpful. All right, so that's just a couple of features that's already sitting there. Okay, I already showed you how to make the vocab list, but I've got the directions in here because this is your reference to come back to, because you're going to forget some of the things that I say. Okay, you can also, take this article and I can hit the play button. Now you guys aren't going to actually be able to hear this, but what you're going to see is you're going to see the text highlighted and the word as it's reading, and I hear it in my earbuds. The word that's being read is highlighted in blue, so students could follow along. So remember, Screencastify. Why not activate your screen recording of Screencastify to record the screen as it's being read? So cool. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, and I'm going to hit the play button. And so I'm hearing it in my earbuds, and a student can go ahead and follow along each of the words and watch it as they're listening. So a variety of our learners could really benefit from that. And again, I come up here to Screencastify and I record that. I'm not going to do it right now because it'll mess up my earbuds, but you can record that as it's happening. You can post that into your assignment, and there you go. When we are back to normal, if we ever do, you know, and students are sitting on a bus, right, and they're off for a marching band event or something like that, having them be able to listen to something instead of read it and get sick on the bus can be really helpful. So it's differentiating for everybody. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit more work with some of our English language learners. Again, a lot of this came out from those students that came in from foreign language, from different countries right before school happened. And I know that I've heard so many people say, don't use Google Translate. That's terrible. It's wrong a lot and whatever. I'm like, you know what? I have a student that's sitting in class that's not getting anything. Or I can have them get some stuff and the translation's occasionally wrong. I'm going for option B any day of the week. And I'm going to empower my students so that as they're learning the English and they're reading the translation, when they're like, hey, that translation, totally wrong. Cool. Make Google better. You teach Google what the right translation is. Do you think they're learning English by doing that? Yeah, they are actually. Okay, so let me show you how it works. So I'm going to go and open up and just go to translate.google.com. I'll show you the extension in a minute and why they're different. Okay, so I can come over, I can pick up a bunch of text. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it over into Translate. And right now I'm translating it into Spanish. Let's change it into Arabic. Okay, I can also have a student listen. Now in my earphones, I'm actually hearing it in Arabic. I don't speak Arabic at all. I just have to assume that that's right. I have listened to it in Spanish and I know that enough to know it's pretty good. Okay, but the inflection in the voice is actually pretty awesome. And so what they can do is highlight a particular section. And if they're like, that's totally off, look, improve this translation, and you can go ahead and fix it. So they're really working on their language skills by doing that. Why am I going this way instead of using this Google Translate extension that I have installed up here? because it allows me the ability to listen. They can also listen in English if they want. So this can be incredibly helpful. All right. Also, remember I gave you guys that template in the very beginning and said just have them write a learning objective, right? So a teacher could write the learning objective, put in a web page for the student to go to learn the information. And we all know like really good websites in our content for information, right? So that doesn't take too long to do. And then you're going to work on working with your students to teach them how to use this Google Translate extension. So if I click on the extension and I say translate this page, I get this bar right here, and I can say view this page in, let's do Persian again. And I hit translate. And I've just translated the whole page. I don't have the option to listen to it in Persian. That's the difference. But if I just want to read it, that's totally fine. I still have the option to select a section. I saw it come up a second ago. I can listen to individual words if I want, but I can't do the whole thing. And I do have the ability to go ahead and fix that translation for Google if I need it, okay? So then I can go back and forth to the original. So really, really quick and easy. All right, moving on. We already talked about this with the hearing the translation in their native language and whole page translation. Again, I've got the button right here for the web store that you can actually go to download this. And all kinds of languages, and Google is updating them all the time. Okay, so again, you hover over the passage and you can contribute to a better translation. You can also do Google Translate on your phone or tablet. Okay, just download the Google Translate and you get this pop-up and you have the option for camera, handwriting, conversation, or voice. So I actually would have conversations with people in this ESL class in two completely different languages. They would speak their language to me and Google, my phone would translate it so that I could understand it. I would speak in English to them, it would translate it, and we would just go back and forth. Not only great when we get to travel again, but great in the classroom as well. And you know what was really cool is I actually got secret permission. It's not secret now, I just advertised it to the world. But I was able to get Google Hangouts, or now Meet, turned on for some students, and they did virtual pen pals. So the students at the high school had conversations with the students at an elementary school at a 5th grade. And it was really cool because then we also used Google Translate. So the students via Meet were doing 2 different languages to each other. And it was super fun. If you take and hit the camera button and you hold it over a piece of paper, yeah, Denise is like, the camera feature is amazing. I have a screenshot of what it looks like with an iPad. So I hovered over some text and it changed it into the other language in real time. If I then take a picture of that, then what I can do is take my finger and I drag it over a section and it will translate it for me into that language. And I can have it translate via hitting the button so that I can listen to it. So I went in, all the ESL students got iPads given to them from the district. The English teacher had assigned the Odyssey for these students who spoke 5 languages, the worst of which was English. And they're like, I'm a little stressed by this. This is going to take me forever to read through. So the second I taught them this, that girl whipped out her iPad, took a picture of the page of the Odyssey, put in her earbuds, hit play, and she followed along in English as best as she could while she was listening to it in French, because that was their next best language, right? Because her language wasn't an option. So I thought that was pretty fantastic and really powerful. Okay, we already talked about this conversation feature a minute ago, so it's really simple. I would just practice with somebody at home maybe. And then I learned this from George. When we get back to the classroom, you can actually take your phone, put in Google Translate, have it hooked up to a Bluetooth speaker. Your student who speaks a different language can be sitting wherever in the room, right? You give the class directions, you open up the app, you say the directions again, have it translate and play over to the Bluetooth speaker. And now that student feels part of the classroom and they are not feeling alienated because they got the directions given to them specifically, and then off they go. And so again, they're not checked out and they have a bond with you because you're really trying to help. Okay. Also, translation is embedded within slides if you use an add-on called Slides Translator. So this is by the same guy who made Equatio, by the way. The guy's like a coding genius. Okay, let me find a slide that has a bunch of text. I'm going to go to add-ons, go to Slide Translator, and translate the text box. Into what language? Let's do Arabic. Okay, so it's actually taken this text box, used Google Translate, and put it over here. So in your slides, as you're doing this for your students remotely, they could be using this as an option. All right. How you guys doing? I'm hitting you with a ton of stuff.
They are loving it. They love the speaker idea. First of all, I love George. He's amazing anyways. And so with his information, but speaker idea is great. Everybody was loving that you can drag something from one tab to the other and drop it. Even I didn't know you can do that.
Oh, really? You didn't?
No, I don't think I ever did it. I'm sure that I probably could try it, but I never ever thought to do that.
That's fantastic. You know what? Let me go back for a second because that brings up something that I should probably tell you guys. So if I go to insert, I'm just going to insert a table really fast. For like, say we're back in that vocabulary thing. I showed you where you can get a picture from another page and drag it in. You can also do it within here, right? If I go down to the Explore button, I can do a search there. And so I can say, let's say, whoopsie, I did not mean to do that at all. Explore clastic sedimentary rocks. I can search the web, I can search images, and I can search Drive. Okay, so I can do images and I can go this way to get images and drag them over into my documents. Whoops, I did it. Did you see that? I did it up too high.
But still so good. The Explore tool is the most amazing thing I've ever seen too. I'm like, oh, it's so great.
Right? I love it. But do you guys know what the difference is between the images I get here versus the images I get here doing a search? Does anybody know?
Just learned this.
Yeah. What is it? Fill me in.
They are all able to be shared. They're uncopyrighted. They're copyrighted, and I mean, so that kids don't have to worry about the copywriting issues. Is what it is. Right.
Exactly. And that's huge. And so we all want good digital citizens, right? And so having that conversation about going this way versus the World Wide Web, it leads to really great conversations about people's copyright and intellectual property and all that sort of stuff. Beth is already. Sorry, yeah. What?
It filters them for you already.
Yeah, it filters them for you. The downside is if you start getting like, you know, I used a geology example here. And if you start getting really, I don't know, intricate type things that you're looking for, it really narrows the field of the images that are going to come back filtered, right? And so sometimes you still have to go out to the World Wide Web to get it. Okay, sure. That's the difference. Somebody said, I forget where it is, something about Pear Deck.
Yeah, would Slides Translator work for Pear Deck?
I have never tried that. And my best guess is yes, because it's still just Google Slides, right? You've activated the add-on for Pear Deck, but I don't see why you couldn't activate Translator for that as well. If you're saying like, while a student has joined a Pear Deck, right, with a join code, then I don't think it's going to work. Right. I haven't tested it, but I really doubt it.
Well, and I know if you have like, it might not be like exactly in Pear Deck, but what if you have like a link to whatever it is you're doing and it takes it out, you can click the link in Pear Deck and then they can do the translating that way as well. So there's just some workarounds, I think, with that.
For sure. Okay, you know what? And we're talking about differentiating, but you know what? While I'm here in Explore, I just want to make sure that you guys all know this, because this took me until fairly more recently than you would think to figure out that this was a thing. So if I'm doing research on the web and I click on one of these options and I'm like, hey, this is great information, and a student's going to take notes on this over here on their document. So, whoops. So here's their notes. Where did they get it from? If I hover over this website and hit this site as footnote, then look, I get a 1 right here. And if I scroll down to the bottom of the page, did you guys know that was a thing? That took me forever. So show your students when I show.
So good. And then you can change it on the top. Did you show them like MLA, APA, Chicago format, the whole thing?
All right, so I click the snowman, these 3 dots, and I can go to APA or Chicago. So it'll actually cite it in whatever I want.
So good.
So good. I know all my geology papers needed APA, and I'm like, really? Whatever you want. But that's really great. If you guys go to my website, I actually, under the tutorials button, there is one called, there's a presentation called Making Research Easy-ish. And it's kind of like a walkthrough at your own pace tutorial that you can push out to your students whenever you're going to go ahead and assign like a research project. And there's got screencasts embedded in there, and it walks them through this process for your paper. But let's see. Denise, I don't think Denise knew that. Neither did Michelle. That's awesome. Okay. So moving back, I'm in the wrong version of me. Oh my gosh, I have too many tabs and too many versions of me open. All right, using YouTube. There's lots of great videos on there, right? I have learned my lesson. Make sure you watch the entire video in its entirety to make sure there's nothing inappropriate shoved into the back at the last couple seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna actually give you guys a couple of minutes. I'm gonna show you how to do this, and then I want you to practice, because unless you practice, you're gonna kind of get thrown off when you try to do this. You're gonna need to teach your students how to do this, but you can add in subtitles, which are automatically generated, and then you can change the language. The students can change the language of the video. And so again, using that template for students, it's like, here's your learning objective. And that's great for not only ESL students, but some of your special ed students that just can't handle all the content, right? They need something more specific. For a student on ALPs, it's like, all right, well, you're done. Let's expand out your information, you know, and let's take you a little bit further. You could do that too. And we can just find a YouTube video. So I'm going to go to YouTube. The things that come up. Okay, so I've got, for some reason, I'm all about clastic sedimentary rocks today. I don't know why. Actually, I'll play it, I'll mute it so it doesn't distract me. I'm going to go to closed captioning and I'm going to turn it on. Then I'm going to go to settings, subtitles, English. Anytime you see one of these little buttons in Google that's an arrow or a snowman or a hamburger, click it. Google hides amazing things underneath there. Okay, so I'm going to click it and I'm going to auto translate into Arabic. Again, just like I said before, it's not perfect. And sometimes the kids sit there and they laugh, but have your students, when we're back in the classroom, have them bring headsets every day. And you can, again, use that template I showed you in the very beginning. Here's your learning objective. Here's the video you're going to watch. Translate it as you want, if you want, and then go ahead and answer that objective. Took me a couple minutes to do at best, right? Okay, so what I want you guys to do, I'm just going to pause here for a second. Can you guys open up another tab and just play with that and try it for a second? Because again, that muscle memory, if you're just trying to remember how to do that, there was a couple of steps and I'm worried that you're going to forget. All right, so take a minute. Amber and I are going to be here if you have questions.
Yes. I was also going to pop this up. I'm going to share my screen as well. And for a second, we'll put yours on there too. But just for our upcoming event so they can see it as well.
Oh, great idea.
Share screen. On the Chrome tab, this one, share. All right. Can we see that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So just while you guys are practicing that, this is an upcoming event that we're going to be having. Actually, there's going to be a big announcement on this event next Saturday. So check it out. It is on the global channel, just so you guys know. So it will be with the global GEG channel. Check it out. Come and visit and check all the things you need to know about Pear Deck.
All right, it's kind of quiet in the chat. You guys good? You figured out the translation? Again, thinking of app smashing, right? You could always have this open. You as a teacher, go ahead, turn on the closed captioning, set it to auto translate into whatever language, have it run with Screencastify. Now you've got a video and you can go ahead and put that specifically to that student. So you don't even necessarily need to have them know how to do it. But why not? Because we want to empower them, right? Might as well. And, you know, while it's running in the background, you can go get some more coffee, do whatever. All right, Kira, oh, hey, Kira, is practicing. So that's good.
Super easy.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead then and move on. Yeah, it is so easy. And oh my gosh, it took me forever to realize that that was a thing. Hey, while we're there too, you know how sometimes people give me a hard time because they're like, you talk really fast. I'm like, it's kind of an East Coast thing. But some people speak really slowly and I just don't have time. And so I can actually change the playback speed. It's also in the settings there. And I find the sweet spot is usually about 1.25, depending on the person. 1.5 is good. So you can just get through it faster because they pause too much. So anyway, just added bonus for you. Okay, where am I? I'm here. So sorry, I keep switching screens because I can't remember where I'm at. Okay, so let's talk about some apps that integrate and also have some ability. These are things that I go to for sources to give different content to students without me having to spend a lot of time creating it, okay? And those of you, I see a lot of fellow Jeffco people on there. We have Actively Learn Premium coming. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that really fast. But the rest of you guys that don't have premium, doesn't matter. There's amazing stuff in there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Actively Learn. So I want to be able to give a student some very quick content at their reading level, right? That is different than the reading level for everybody else or at a different grade level. So I'm in Actively Learn. It's just activelylearn.com. I'm in my content. I could spend 2 hours just on Actively Learn. So my goal is to introduce you to this as a resource and have you play with it. Okay, so I'm going to come in here This is the free version, by the way. I'm going to come to topics. I'm going to go to Earth Space. I'm going to go to history. I can change grade levels and lexile levels and say I just want like 3 through 8, something like that. And we're talking about Earth's history. So I can click on this one, this assignment. And what's amazing, I've already clicked on this before because I've edited it. I can come in here and take a look at it. And I should be able to edit. Why am I not seeing this? My instructions. Okay. Did they change the rights? Anyway, I've got all of this information here. So let's say I'm like, yep, this is great. It's at a lower reading level. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to a student. In what class? I've already linked my Google Classroom to here. I'm going to say assign. So now in that Google Classroom, this assignment with all of this reading material, with questions pre-written and embedded, with videos pre-embedded, with summaries and all that's done for me. It's now over in Google Classroom as a draft. So now I open up the assignment. Do I want it to give it to everybody, or do I want to just give it to a couple of students? So again, same workflow. I deselect all students, select the ones that they want, assign it, and off we go. I've spent a couple of minutes doing that, okay? Once the student is in here, they can actually go ahead and they can look up words and translate words. They can have words read to them. It's pretty great. And then as a teacher, I can go ahead and I can pick on my assignments and I can look at my grade book and I can see everybody's grades that I've assigned stuff to. So this is great for differentiating same information, totally different levels. Okay, this is one of my go-to places is Actively Learn. So when we learned that we were going to get it, I was over the moon excited. Okay, the other one I love for differentiating content is Edpuzzle. I have any Edpuzzle lovers over here? I'm sure I do. So Edpuzzle is great. Instead of doing kind of this combination reading, video, stuff like that, if I just have a video that I want to ask questions about, I can look them up. So I went to edpuzzle.com. Again, I could do an hour or two just on this, but I've got different channels. Do I want to pull a video from Edpuzzle, meaning somebody else has looked at the video and written questions? How many? Look at this one, 13 questions right there. This one has 8 questions. So I can search for content via Edpuzzle, or I can upload something from YouTube and add in all of my own questions from the start. Khan Academy, awesome for math and sciences, right? Veritasium Crash Course, I love that. So if I find one that somebody has created and already has questions to it, I can select it. And down here at the bottom, I can make a copy for myself. Okay, now I can edit their questions. I can add in questions. I can add a recording of myself speaking at the beginning of the video that says, hey guys, while you're watching this video, I want you to pay close attention to whatever our learning objective is. They watch the video pauses and asks a question, they answer it, and off it goes again. I, as a teacher, then get a grade book, and I think my grade book is kind of dead, yeah, because I haven't used this in a class for a while. Okay, but you get, I think I've got a screenshot of it right here for you. Totally don't. That's in a different presentation that I've got a screenshot of what it looks like in Edpuzzle. But just like everything else with a grade book, it's just like a spreadsheet that's pretty colors. And it shows you how long the students spent in it, what grade they got, because if it's multiple choice, it'll automatically grade it for them. It will show you if a student like went back and rewatched a section, because it gives you that ability. And it also, as a teacher, when you're assigning this, you can select that says they cannot skip ahead and just not watch a section. Doesn't mean they're not gonna not pay attention, but at least you made it harder, right? It has to play until the next question comes. Okay, yeah, Miss Westhead's classroom. I think you're the one in Bermuda. Yeah, you still make your own, you're fussy. Yeah, I rarely do anything and assign anything as I found it. I'm a tweaker. That sounds totally wrong. Not what I meant. I like to adjust for my own teaching style, right? Anything that I find online. All right. So that's, I meant to do this. That's a lot for a 1 hour session. I do like you to come back and use this as a resource, but I also know that when you go digging, sometimes you're like, I can't find what page something was on. So I have this last page filled with buttons that takes you to all the different links that I went through in my session, and it links you straight to that. So when you come back and look at this, you can just go straight to the resources to find that tool that you're looking for. Okay, there we go. I'm hoping that our goal, right, was to have 1 or 2 little nuggets that you take away that you can implement when we start school. So I would love to see in the chat that one thing that you're like, that's it, that's going to help me. Go ahead and put it in the chat so I can take a look. You're watching Sesame Street in Spanish. It's funny. Yeah, Stephanie. So when I was in Spain for that summer, when my brain would get full, I would just sit there because Sesame Street was the only thing in English, and I just sit there and watch it. It was great. Could be great for foreign language classes too. Yep. And, you know, I have a lot of foreign language teachers that are like, Google Translate is terrible because it doesn't teach them the language. Sure it does. Have them go through, look at translations, and their job is to suggest more, you know, like better ones for Google, and then show you what they did. Like, why couldn't that be a real world lesson? Irene's excited about Pear Deck. See, that was another one that I didn't really talk about, but you should come see Pear Deck next week because it's amazing. That's another kind of go-to tool that I have. It's not as much, I feel like, for differentiation, but it could be used that way. Not all videos have closed captioning, unfortunately. That's true, but we went to have Google use its artificial intelligence to close captions. So yes, there's going to be mistakes. So if you use that setting in YouTube, Miss Westhead, and have Google automatically translate it, it doesn't matter if they have them in or not, because you'll still get mostly correct. There's a new citation creator coming in Google Docs in the next couple of months. Really? Well, that's awesome. Google Voice Typing. Okay, excellent. Citations for my research and translation. Do you guys want me to drop that tutorial in the chat for the how to make research easy-ish? Can I find it quickly? Maybe. Tutorials. It's on this page. I'll just drop this in the chat. Okay, so under tutorials, there's one here, making research easiest. That's the one that works really well with students. If you guys decide that you're like, hey, I want a copy of that because I want to tweak it, feel free, message me, and I'll be happy to get you a copy of that. Okay, well, that is what I have for you guys today. I really, really appreciate you coming.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your knowledge. Honestly, I've seen you like 100 times already, and I just learned something new like every single time I talk to you. So, and definitely check out her website. There, I literally have that bookmarked because you will find so many great things in there and so much stuff that you can use. So please check that out for sure.
Yeah, and I'm actually in the process of moving it over from like work to personal. So if you get there and it's gone, I'm gonna have like a link to take you over to the another one. That's coming.
I'm going to share my screen just one more time so you guys can see this Pear Deck ad so that you can see it. I'm also going to throw it in the chat. Let me actually go back here and do that first. Okay, so I'm throwing it in the chat. It is happening on next Saturday, the 22nd at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm getting these time zones good. So it is on the global channel. Just make sure that you go there and you can watch it and you can sign up. There is some big announcements coming for GEG Colorado. So we have some exciting things happening. There's some exciting things happening in our world, but join us for Pear Deck next week and don't miss it. It's going to be great. And there's just going to be exciting things that we're going to be sharing with you that day.
Yep, and Stephanie Schmidt said she loves image dropping, so great as an art teacher. If you have not checked out Google Arts and Culture, Stephanie, please do for an art teacher. It is amazing.
It's very amazing, actually. There's tons of cool stuff in there. Google has so many cool things. I mean, honestly, there's more stuff than I can even think about.
I know, I learn stuff all the time.
Yes, so again, we will see you hopefully next week and join us for Pear Deck. Thank you so much today, Becky, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Great to see y'all. Bye. Bye.